Spectrophilia. It's a word most of us have never even heard, and the concept is even more bizarre. Basically, it's described as the romantic attraction between humans and ghosts, or more specifically, from humans to ghosts in a biblical sense. It also, weirdly enough, can relate to the attraction to images in mirrors. But is it real? Most of us would categorically say no. Now, if we count any romantic interaction between humans and any paranormal element, we could look to incubi and succubi, and that would date these reports back to the 14th century. Strangely enough, the most common place I've seen this reported is from Hollywood starlets such as Kesha, who has engaged in multiple TV interviews about her hot makeout session with a ghost. Paranormal Activity 2 actress Natasha Blossett got a lot of pushback when she appeared on British morning show This Morning. Dr. Kieran O'Keefe said that what Natasha was describing sounded a lot more like sleep paralysis. It's worth noting that Dr. Kieran O'Keefe is both a psychologist and he studies the paranormal. He described that the way that Natasha explained her experience lined up with a lot of the things that are key about sleep paralysis. That being the feeling of weight she had on her body and that she felt pinned down and couldn't move. Sleep paralysis happens in that state between asleep and wakefulness, and usually it's associated with seeing terrifying images. But Dr. O'Keefe described that there's no reason it couldn't relate to dreams about doing the Wango Tango. Now, what about the women that aren't just attracted to these ghosts, but instead like them so much that they decide to keep them around? They decide to marry them. A woman named Amethyst Realm went viral for claiming that she had done the hibbity-bibbity with 20 ghosts before settling down and deciding to marry, I guess, her favorite that she met. And the news articles related to her engagement, they give me peak joy in life. Amethyst says that she met the spirit she decided to settle down with on vacation in Australia. His name was Ray. Sadly, they did eventually break up when she said he became completely inconsiderate. And finally, we have Amanda Large Teague, who claims to have married a 300-year-old pirate ghost who inspired the character of Captain Jack Sparrow, although the people involved with Pirates of the Caribbean say that's not true. The ghost's name was Jack Teague, and they were married by a shaman. As you might have noticed, Amanda took his last name. Amanda's story does have a really sad element because she started exploring New Age philosophy and spirituality when she experienced the tragic loss of her son. However, their relationship too fell apart, so it sounds like these ghosts are not worth it. In fact, Amanda underwent a depossession on purpose because she wanted to divorce her husband. She didn't just want a divorce, she never wanted to see him again. She wanted to be completely rid of Jack Teague, which is pretty final. Amanda says that her beliefs are no different than anyone else. And I do think that that is a very fair point. Now, what if we examine the more rational side of spectrophilia? There aren't that many people that have, actually. Although I did find one very insightful blog from a professor named Dr. Mark Griffiths. And Dr. Griffiths explains that spectrophilia is just one type of exophilia, that being the umbrella term. Basically, an exophilia is where you're attracted to non-human life forms. And that could be an alien, it could be a ghost, it could be a robot. Those of us who read paranormal romances are feeling really called out right now. Dr. Griffiths describes this as a condition. And while he says there are famous cases, two of which I didn't even mention, which would be Lady Gaga and Anna Nicole Smith, he says that most people with this condition don't claim to have actually been physically involved with a ghost. They're usually just attracted to the idea of it. And some may hopefully leave their windows open, just hoping that a ghost does come by. Unsurprisingly, there actually aren't that many places that even study this or look into it. And the ones that do often reference incubi and succubi again. There are actually websites online that instruct you how to summon them intentionally, which is a little different from the folklore, if I'm not mistaken. A very interesting part of this is that, apart from these modern stories, the ones throughout history were often about dead lovers that are coming back, deceased husbands returning to widows, and horrifyingly, criminals, perpetuators of that kind of violence, coming back to further spread harm on innocent victims, which is probably one of the worst ghost stories I've ever heard. And when we talk about that kind of ghost that would perpetuate that kind of harm, often censored on YouTube as SA, there is one famous case. It was even turned into a movie called The Entity. The whole situation is sometimes referred to as the entity haunting, and Bither gave an account that 3 of these criminal ghosts assaulted her in the worst way that a person can be assaulted. Now, Bither's event took place in 1978. She was a single mother of 4, and all of her children alleged that they had seen the hauntings in the home. Doris would go on to consult the parapsychology department at UCLA, and they conducted an investigation in her home that concluded with some mind-blowing photographs. Basically, there was this light streak that was bending in such a way that was supposedly impossible. I say supposedly because I don't know anything about science. After the investigation, the team says that the frequency of the attacks against Doris minimized over time and eventually disappeared. She would pass in 1999 from pulmonary arrest. Now back to Dr. Mark Griffith. He says it might surprise no one, but he prefers his evidence to be empirical, and that spectrophilia is just a word-of-mouth myth based on legend. So what's really happening in this phenomenon? If something's reported enough times, surely something is actually happening to cause so many people to think that they are experiencing adult situations with ghosts. Was Dr. Kieran O'Keefe correct? Perhaps it's sleep paralysis. Now, as I said previously, sleep paralysis happens in that state between asleep and awake. Often, the person experiencing it can't move, they're paralyzed, but they also hallucinate. And usually, the images people see during sleep paralysis are horrifying. But if we take that hypothesis and we say that perhaps they don't always have to be scary, it would make a lot of sense and it would fit with a lot of the ways that people tell these stories. For my part, I'm not sure. But what I do find interesting about this legend is just the fact that you can see the full spectrum of human behavior even within the ghosts. The myth includes monsters, and so does humanity. But it also includes genuine and nice human connection. Well, human and ghost connection. I'd love to hear what you guys think below. Subscribe. Don't smash that like button because that's weird and I don't want you to hurt your device. Just click it normally. And also, normally click the bell for notifications about when I post new videos. I'm probably going to be on YouTube more than I'm going to be on TikTok these days. That's a whole other thing. Bye guys. Thanks for watching.